I guess I'll say two things. One of the things is that, even though I've had books that have sold better than Blackwater, but I get the most mail about Blackwater. People email me the most about Blackwater, and it's odd because on the surface it's odd because it's a personal story. It's like an intimate it's a memoir.
Yes.
So like what would other people see in that and feel related to, because it's my story. But the reality is that when we talk about reconciliation, the starting point is seeing the humanity in each other, and recognizing that because we're human beings, that we share things with each other. We share our humanity, but we also share experiences and the need to connect, the pursuit of identity, the journey to self. Like those are things that are universal. And so I think that in my story, people have been able to relate to things in their own lives, and I think that, in emails I get, people are, that they'll be like, I read Blackwater and I called my dad, or I read Blackwater and I flew over to Scotland to, get to know my roots, so those things really, they mean a lot to me. And that's really spoken to me about, just the power of connection. I mean, stories are really about making connections, like, the connections I made with my dad, the connections I made with myself, my identity, and the connections I've been able to make with readers, through that story. It's been a really beautiful thing. I never really understood what that meant. Like, I conceptually, I had heard of what it meant, that like those memories of the people who've come before us in our lives, that those memories live within us. Like those experiences live within us. They flow through our veins. They're like woven into the fabric of our DNA. I've heard that. I've heard stories of it. Conceptually, I understood it, but I didn't really get it until I went with my dad to his trap line. And it was this amazing thing where, we went out onto the boat, onto the Nelson River. And, the first thing I noticed was that my dad looked so much younger. Like, at that point, he was getting weaker. He was walking with a cane. He was looking his age for the first time. He always looked younger than he was. When my dad was 60, people didn't believe he was 60. They thought he was 50. When my dad was 70, people didn't believe he was 70. They thought he was 55, so, and then all of a sudden he looked 82, and so, but then we went on the water, and I remember looking at him and just thinking, he looks so young, like he looks so strong. And so the first part of that is I recognize the power of the land and the ability of the land to give us life. That's the first thing I noticed. And I took a picture of him, and that picture is on the back of Blackwater. And it's the best picture I've ever taken. It's with my grandpa's camera. But it's this picture. I wanted it to be on the cover, but eventually we put it at the back. But this is that picture. Yeah, right there. Yeah, yeah. I took that with a camera. My grandpa's old camera. It's like a 70-year-old camera. It had no business taking a picture that good, but it did. And so anyway, so I noticed that first, and then we made the long journey to Blackwater. It's about 20 miles outside of Norrie House, north of Norrie House. And as soon as I got off the boat, put my feet on the ground where my dad grew up, like where he spent his childhood, where my grandparents lived, where my great-grandparent lived, I felt home. And it's the only way I could describe it. I felt like I belonged there. I recognized it, even though I'd never been there before. And so it's this really spiritual, feeling, this real spiritual experience. And that's what blood memory is. That the people who came before you, their experiences, they live within you, and you can remember. You can remember, even though you've never been through it yourself. Your body, your spirit, your DNA, the fabric of who you are remembers those experiences. Actually, Blackwater was the only one where, I mean, getting published is hard. Like as I've gotten through my career, I'm at the point now where, you know, it's not hard for me to really get published. It's hard to write. It's hard to write stories. But you know, I'm lucky to work with a couple of really good publishers who have a lot of faith in the work that I do. But Blackwater was a tough one because we actually got, you know, a couple of maybe 4 or 5 publishers weren't interested in it, and then HarperCollins really saw the value in it and and dove in with me, and so I'm really appreciative of them to do, because it was a change, you know. Like I'm known mostly for children's literature,
Mm.
so to take like a children's writer, a children's, you know, someone who's written mostly for children, and then, you know, put their muscle behind an adult book from them was you know, I appreciate that they took that step, you know, because it was a bit of a bold choice on their part to do that, because they're not known as an adult writer. At least, you know, not at the time I wasn't, and maybe still not, but like, but it turned out okay. But it was a little harder to find a publisher for this one than any other book that I've done.